Welcome to this short explanation of the DISC types and how you can use them to help you in your business world. As the quote on the screen says, it's the relationships and the networks that illustrate your value to your employer and others. So look at the slide. Here's some of the stuff you would gain from knowing more about the DISC program. And while I believe everyone could manage most any job, some of us have natural, specific strengths that make us a better fit. Let's have an example. If, say, poof, we're all doctors. Let's talk about what kind of doctors we would make. So if we're talking about the steady folks, I'd say they're really great at the caring fields like pediatrics, oncology, cancer specialists. They have such a natural ability to show concern and make us all feel better. I imagine a patient would leave their oncologist's office with a bad diagnosis, but feeling accepted and possibly even optimistic. Let's shift and look at the influencer type. They're really great at fields that can be chaotic to others and require a fast change of pace. They're energized rather than exhausted when things get hectic. I imagine they'd be great ER doctors or anything in triage or battlefield medicine. The conscientious types. We'd want them to be fields that require the utmost attention to detail, very detail driven. Think about surgeons in all the forms, gastroenterology, obstetrics and gynecology, ear, nose, and throat, general surgery, all of that. You'd want a surgeon to be someone who would work until it was perfect. Finally, let's look at the dominant types. Probably best at fields that require innovative thinking. They would make fantastic research doctors, coming up with new medicines or procedures. Now, they may not have the best bedside manner. Think about House from TV. But they would be good at connecting those obscure dots and discovering a diagnosis. They'd also be good at those rare medicine fields, diseases that don't occur very often. Something of a specialist that other doctors might send patients to when a clear diagnosis isn't present. But what about another career field? Let's say we're all in the police department. Influencers would make great SWAT officers, emergency management people, motorcycle cops. That natural ability to handle stress makes those jobs appealing. Conscientious types would make natural detectives. Detectives are responsible for collecting all the evidence so that prosecutors can try a case and win. The rules for evidence collection and interviewing suspects are many, and conscientious types will remember all the rules and take the time to look them up if needed. They will not take a shortcut. What about the steady types? They make natural officers to send to any crisis situation where we need communication. Think about domestic violence calls. Steady types would use their amazing ability to calm people down and reduce conflict and end the situation peacefully. Great community outreach officers and school officers. They create relationships that are positive. Finally, let's look at dominant types. These guys are our forensic investigators. They'd be able to piece together those random facts and evidence to find the real killer. These people make use of their natural analytical ability to solve complex problems. As you can probably imagine, life is about the quality of your relationships. Wouldn't it make sense to be a master of relationships? And so simply understanding and admitting that other people have different viewpoints and that alternative viewpoint is most certainly okay. That goes a long ways towards increasing your acceptance of others. That's the basis of a good relationship. So if you can speak their language to people in a way that they understand and easily by phrasing things the way that they would phrase it, then you're more likely to be accepted by them. and will create good relationships faster than if you only see things from your point of view. The whole point of the DISC system is to give you specific ways to alter your own behavior to match that of others. You could try to get people to see things your way. That doesn't work generally, unless you're some sort of dictator. Let's face it, the only person you can really control is yourself. So, if you want to get ahead, having the knowledge of how other people work and how they see the world and how they expect others to behave gives you an unusual insight to be able to change your own behavior to match their expectations. This is another example of forming good relationships. So let's get into it. What are the different types? Influencers. Have you ever been accused of, you mostly get accused of the weaknesses, complimented on the streaks. So let's look at it. Influencers, you'll make up about 25% of the population. You're the go, go, go active part of our society. Although sometimes the ready, fire, aim, crud, kind of go, go, go. But you are awesome and have lots of friends generally. You also have enemies, but it doesn't bother you. Planning way in advance is not your thing, but still, things happen and you get them done. You are so generous, you would give somebody the shirt off their back, only to realize you have no shirt and it is cold. No worries on your part, because you have 400 Snapchat friends and you can hit up somebody who'll even bring you a better shirt. However, do you have an emergency kit in the car? Do you have a working spare tire? Of all the types, you're least likely to have this. But again, no worries. You know somebody who will come to help. Perhaps you are more steady. Have you ever been accused of being untruthful or unrealistic? Now here's what I mean by this. Untruthful. Do not lie, but if someone were to ask you what they thought or what you thought of their new outfit that really looked terrible, you would say something like, "It is so you," rather than telling them it looks terrible and hurting their feelings. So there we go. You high S types are a whopping 40% of the population. That's really awesome. You're the glue that holds us all together. You're great at keeping friends from fighting, and you can find ways to stop the conflict when other people can't even see a solution. I think that's why we need 40% of the population to be y'all. If other groups were this well represented in the world, humanity may not survive. What about the conscientious types? Have you ever been accused of being abusive? And again, not physically, but sort of telling people that they're doing it the wrong way. A little bit demanding, a little bit rigid. Hey, high C types. You're about 20 to 25% of our population. You are the backbone of our culture. You make the rules and are most likely to follow them. The I types over there only follow them if they think they might be caught. Thanks for writing all those manuals that come with our stuff. However, sorry to let you know, many of the other folks will never even read the manuals. Quite silly of them, don't you think? Let's look at the dominant types. They've probably been accused of speaking sarcasm at a professional level. Non-compliant. After all, they follow all the rules that make sense. Pretty critical. 10 to 15% of the population. Do you think it's because you're not very into people to the point that your ancestors maybe forgot to pass on their genes in the past? Was it that they did have kids but forgot about them while they were thinking of other stuff? Or was it that you just annoyed the other group so much that they kicked you out of the tribe and you were eaten by lions? Okay, this may sound insulting to the non-D types, but ask a D. They'll probably admit that little kernel of truth in the last joke. So have we pegged you yet? Well, let's keep searching. Let's look at how the different colors and types contribute to the workplace environment. At the end of these next slides, you should have an appreciation of the way the types work together and a realization that yes, without representation of all 4 types at work, the whole business would suffer. Don't try to have a business with all the same types of people working there. Yes, you'll all feel comfortable, but no one will challenge ideas. No one will come up something new. No one will bring in new types of customers. A growing and successful business is diverse, We'll look into the research on that later. So be the fantastic manager or owner who looks for and hires people opposite from your own type. People who will challenge you and whose natural strengths will cover up for any weaknesses that are out there. So, influencers. Is this how you like to work? Is this your type? Is it coming into focus? Influencers can deal with the chaos and it makes them happy to conquer it. So much of life is a challenge. They are a fantastic face of the company because their natural charm exudes confidence in the company. Influencers speak to people as if they were friends. They start relationships easily, and people like this. What about this, steady folks? Maybe hit pause. See if you agree. Steady people are great in management. Their great dislike of conflict has given them skills in reducing that conflict even before it gets going. They can see the conflict coming and will work to stop it early, before any damage is done. Their interest in the individual makes them great managers because they work to create an environment where everyone is motivated by their own needs, not just some general motivation strategy. These types of managers help bring out the best in people because they can make work and motivation individualized. Hit pause again. What about the conscientious people in our lives? Conscientious people keep us on the right side of the law with business and in life. These folks understand the laws of the business and make sure the company is successful. They will frequently put the company needs above their own. Sometimes this is hard on them and their families, but it helps them reach success. For those folks, there is a right way to act, and they want other people to realize this. Finally, what about the dominant types? Hit pause a sec. Dominant types like to make great plans for new ideas. They really dislike being micromanaged. Just tell them what to accomplish and let them run with it. They'll let you know when it's done. Making them check in frequently frustrates them and takes mental energy away from working on the problem. So, how do we get along with each other when we don't see the world from these very different perspectives? Well, first we must realize that we are all that type of person at some point. No one is just one type. We are all blends. But we tend to prefer one perspective over others, especially when we're tired or stressed. The challenge comes during those more difficult times when someone who sees the situation vastly differently needs to interact with us. That's where miscommunication occurs. The next few slides offer suggestions to work with and understand better the people who see the world differently. Try to recognize your own comfort zone. See if you can spot someone else in your life as a different type. You know what? They'll stand out from you more for the ways they don't think like you do than the ways they do. Think about someone in your life that you're having a challenge with. See if you can figure out what they are. So, if you struggle to understand that dominant person in your life, represented here with Angelina Jolie, then here's how they kind of like to communicate. They won't repeat themselves. They will have a hard time noticing those little nonverbal cues, and they don't throw off a lot of nonverbal cues. It makes them have kind of a reputation as loners, and it's not so much that, but without a good grasp of nonverbal communication, which, remember, makes up 70% of our message, other people don't get what they're trying to communicate. It's just a misunderstanding. Small talk that is just talking to talk and doesn't seem to have a direct goal is difficult for a person with a high D score. Kind of pointless. They have lots of other things to talk about and don't want to waste time with small talk. Hurts their ability to make relationships, though, as small talk is valued at the beginning of relationships. These dominant type relationships may be seen by others as somewhat cold. They work to build a relationship, but then may expect that it will continue on with that degree of closeness without a lot of maintenance work. What about Lisa Simpson as a mascot here? Inventive, questions everyone. What about Bill Gates and Frederick Douglass? Revolutionary thinking and action, but neither was really known for their friendly banter with strangers. They were often seen as somewhat standoffish, hard to get to know. but very successful at reaching goals. Here's what will stress those folks out. When advertisers use emotions to sell us to something, it annoys that high dominant type. They want the direct approach. Routine at work is difficult if it doesn't lead to productivity. They're going to question the routine. So be ready to defend the routine as having real worth or be ready to change it. They'll frequently come into an organization and immediately question the routines. Listen to them. They may have better ideas to make things more efficient. However, they may miss part of the routine that is there for relationship maintenance. So how do you make things better if you're working with or living with somebody who has a lot of dominant personality type? Well, talk to this person about whatever topic they're currently in love with. Ask them to explain. They'll love it. If you tell a dominant type they can't do something, that's a challenge. And they like to think of themselves as unusually able to do things. They'll then frequently go, research it, and do it just to prove they could. Understand that they question, others think it's criticize, most everything and every plan. It's not them being negative. They're trying to find every possible way that something might fail, so they can then make a plan for that work. Realize this in them. Praise their ability to catch those possibilities, and they'll enjoy your praise for their thinking. So what about if you're annoyed with somebody with a high influence score in your life? Here we've got Will Smith. Here's how influencers like to communicate. First of all, remember, they can persuade people to do many things. So if you suddenly find something you didn't think you'd do, look around you. There's an influencer type who convinced you to try it. Very good at this. They've got a story or a joke for every situation. It's part of their need to entertain people and have people like them. They're frequently the center of the party, and people genuinely enjoy being around them. They will change topics so quickly that you might not follow the conversation. Watch out for that. What about some famous influencer types? Here you get Bart Simpson. He's definitely an influencer. All that energy and excitement, go. However, he sometimes really is the ready, fire, aim. Oh, oops. These people are the Tiggers in life. Energy, the spark, the fun. What's going to stress out our influencers? Well, first, if you know an influencer or are an influencer, don't pick a career that makes you sit in one place at all time. You could do it. You'll be crazy and you want to burn out. These folks work well under pressure, but the deadlines can really stress them to the point of inaction. Rules and regulations that are based more in tradition than effectiveness, really hard for these folks to follow. They'll question the rules. They want exceptions to the rules. So see if you can make that exception work. Influence are more doers than readers when it comes to instructions. If you must write a manual for one of these types to read, keep it short, keep it to the point, and have graphics to increase the interest level. How to reduce conflict. Be nice to them. Let them get up and move. Tell them why something has to be done, especially the why of a rule that doesn't have exceptions. Turn things into a contest. Hey, this also works with kids. Like, how many toys can you pick up by the time I count to 10? Got my living room cleaned up multitude of times. Once you describe an exciting plan or contest or something, let them get started then. Waiting decreases their interest. Be very clear about what needs to be done. If you write it down, keep it short. They're not going to read these long paragraphs that can be summarized. Just summarize it already. Let them have some say in how it has to be done. They will finish the job. You may have to check on them every now and then. So perhaps you struggle to understand the steady people. Here, I've given you David Beckham. So here's sort of how to spot them in the wild. Their conversations are personal, and they mean it. They remember what you said from last time. Pick up the conversation there. They are experts at nonverbal communication. They can read people really well and are good at their nonverbal cues too. The best listeners. If you've ever said, "Oh, I really enjoy talking with someone," I can bet you they have a high I type because they will listen to you so well that you really did most of the talking and they did the listening. We all love it. We love these types. Hey, steady types, if you want to make people happy, you can see this in their actions for others. They really do. So, what mascot do you get? Peace, love, harmony. They're the heroes in our life. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Eleanor Roosevelt, president's wife, worked tirelessly for women's rights in a time when that was not a thing to do. They make peace wherever they go. So, here's a way to stop stressing them out. Don't break promises, especially if those promises hurt people. They'll put you on a list. Okay, let me talk about the list. I think this type has a secret, invisible list they keep in their pocket. And if you have messed with people, your name goes on the list. And what do you know? 3 years later, you could do something again. They'll pull out the list and go, "Aha! I remember when you did that." Criticism also really annoys them, even of others if they know about it. It's difficult for them to tolerate such criticism unless it's followed up with a positive idea of how to improve. Criticism of an action without a plan for improvement is just mean in their eyes. These high I types will offer ways to correct any problem in a personal way and in a manner that the other person believes that they really care. Conflict stresses this type deeply. Conflict is also a part of competition, which of course drives the high D and the high I people, but it's not helpful to the steady folks. In any contest, someone will win and someone will lose. And the caring high S person will be concerned for the loser, even if it's not them. They are deeply empathetic, and I think truly feel the suffering of others, even if it's just the suffering of losing a contest. So, how to reduce conflict. Be real with them. Tell them how to make you happy. That's what they want. Make it easy for them to succeed. Try to be positive and leave the constant "that won't work" somewhere else, far away from the goals for this group, because having a real concern for others is good, but it's also about how you phrase it that makes or breaks a relationship. So perhaps you struggle with the conscientious type. This is Bill Gates here. Here's how you can spot them out in the workplace. They'll be precise with their wording. They appreciate "I'll be back at 2" much more than "I'll be back this afternoon." Afternoon is just too vague. They're making up schedules in their minds, and your vague comment makes scheduling difficult. When they talk about their accomplishments, folks, they're not bragging. They're simply telling you their experiences with success in whatever area you're discussing. They know that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so, in an effort to convince you that they are correct in their recommendations, they will share how they've succeeded in the past. Some may view this as bragging, but in their minds, it's not bragging to get attention. It is, to them, the best way to share with you the truthfulness and validity of their ideas. Please recognize them and praise them when they did well, because they just love that stuff. A simple "thank you" will work wonders. It's even better if you can give them an object to represent that thanks. In this way, the C-type person can look at that object later and remember that their contribution was important. So, who are your mascots? I list Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman Supreme Court Justice. Colin Powell, the first 4-star black general. Anytime someone breaks into a group as the first of their kind, whatever the category, it's generally because they were good enough for the job plus some. I've heard of it described as a tax, like to get a job as a whatever person, you have to be 15% better than everybody else. No one can really tabulate the degree to which this is, and it may not even be true, but it's based on the self-described experiences of those who've succeeded in a non-traditional area for them. I imagine only a conscientious person would be the good enough plus, person. They would know all the rules and be better than all the rules and the expectation. Good job, all you high C's out there breaking barriers for the rest of us. Finish what you start, said every high C person ever. Organize your things so it's easy to finish a project. Don't be weird just to be weird. If you're different from other people, that's fine. Be different because you're authentic, not just to be odd. Be responsible. These high C types are the poster child for responsibility and don't understand why others are not responsible. They hold themselves to a very, very high standard. So they naturally don't understand why you don't hold their standards too. But hey, all you C types, relax on this. You'll get through life a little bit easier. Sorry to disappoint. So, how to get through life? Do what you say you'll do. Also, let's be clear about who's responsible for what. Then everybody do it when you said you'd do it. That'll make them happy. Please don't change plans before the plans are finished. It deeply bothers this type of person to put lots of effort into a project only be told, oh, never mind, we decided to go in another direction. This wastes their time, and they hate waste in any form. Be precise in your language whenever possible. So there you go. You've got 4 types. Is your type correct? Can you identify somebody from your life that's certainly one type or the other? Does it begin to explain the challenges you have in communication? We'll talk about this more in class.